good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Welcome on into the Dragon's Den. My name's Digital Dragon. I am glad that you are here with me today. For those of you that don't know, I am a 3D printing variety streamer here on Twitch. You may be seeing this on YouTube. What does that mean? It means we do everything from taking printers like a Bamboo X1C out and getting it set up to doing custom builds like most of what you see behind me, from an Annex Engineering K3, a closed beta 0G Mercury 1 full frame build, several Vorons. This is a 2.4 and a Trident over here in the corner, a black box 5-head tool changer, and right here, I know you can't really tell it, but this is a Rat Rig V-Core 4 300 size that's sitting here. So yeah, we do a lot of things. In fact, one of the things you'll see here real soon is going to be something I'm doing under closed beta that I've been told I can actually show the build of. I just cannot release any of the files yet. And for those of you that are going to 3D Printopia, you will see this there, both from a couple of mine as well as a couple of others that are taking part in the closed beta. And that is the Box Turtle by Armored Turtle. If this looks familiar, that's because it is basically an open source AMS, right? And what does it look like underneath? Well, each lane has a dedicated extruder, and we'll get more into this, but each lane has a dedicated extruder. Each of the front drive wheels do have a little N20 6-volt, I think 500-watt motor. We've got a Big Tree Tech MMB board over here, and on this side over here is a MOSFETI board, and these are the 4 boards that control the e-spooler motors up at the front. We'll get into more of this in a little bit. Most likely Thursday, we will start building another one of these, and yeah, we will get to building another one of those real soon here on channel. Why, hello, Bexy Beams. How are you? And by the way, welcome on in, Pez Liz first, very good, and Timor second. And as always, I know I always drink my coffee hot. We're sporting 3D Print SOS, aka Fader, who will be at 3D Printopia this year as well. I know I like my coffee hot, and Pez Liz, I think you like to do some iced coffee occasionally, right? Is what the Box Turtle? I don't know what you're talking about, RFS 3D. Yes, that was a Box Turtle. This is a Box Turtle. I did the printed corners. There's the original design had a all aluminum frame, so the corner uprights would have been the 2020 extrusion aluminum as well. In this design, there's actually the ability to put RGB lights in the corners. I will most likely not do that at first. In fact, I don't have the RGB lane lights in yet on this particular one, just because I want to get it working first. And to me, lights are secondary. Yeah, it tells me what lane's what and what may have an error. I get that, but getting this up and functioning, part 1, part 2 is going to be putting the bling on it, so to speak. The front sections here, there is a motor in each one of these that will run the drive wheels. The drive wheels have these are outdated, there's a new version, but they're TPU sleeves over PLA, or not PLA, but TPU sleeves over a printed part. All of this is ABS, by the way. There's currently a 4-into-1 module setup here. There is the ability to do 4 separate modules and basically use it as just 4 spooler buffer type systems. On the bottom, you will notice that each one of these has an extruder, and there are end stop switches at the hub, in each one of the extruders, and at the trigger point. And those are the parts that I still need to plug in as the motors to the motor controller, the MOSFET motor controller over here. We're using currently a Big Tree Tech MMU board, but in the future, and hopefully in the near future, there are custom boards that have been designed for this that we will be beta testing as well. So this is a closed beta. I can show it to you. I cannot make any of the parts available or anything like that. My goal is you still need a filament cutter device. So right now, the only printer I have a filament cutting tool head on is the Trident 350 that's downstairs that had the ERCFA on it. Yeah, Dragoon 1, the bamboo all the way over here, is currently printing new parts for Iron Dragon, the Trident over here in the corner, to swap that tool head out with a Filometrix. And when I go and build that new tool head, we will go ahead and probably set it up. Sorry, Dragoon 2 is getting ready to do another set of maker chips for Mrs. Dragon. We'll also go ahead and set that tool head up with I was going to say the Nighthawk SB board. There we go. That's what we were going to do. And then I've ordered some filament so that I can do this one as well. I'm going to wind up with 2 box turtles by the end of it. One's going to be blue and white. The other one's going to be Galaxy Orange and Galaxy Red, with some black thrown in as well. But yeah, that's what we'll be starting. We're going to be doing that build starting Thursday, barring anything going sideways on me. More on that later. The Dragon Clan has had a couple of family medical emergency things going on. So barring any major change, Thursday and so on streams will continue. Mrs. Dragon is actually out in Colorado with her mom, who had a fall. So yeah, been keeping an eye on Armored Turtles projects, yes. Was interested in the 8-track, but seems this is taking priority, which is fine right now. So 8-track is still going on. This is taking a little bit of priority right now because he wants to show it off at Earth or 3D Printopia. So right now we're looking at having 5+ on display throughout 3D Printopia. So you were here, but stream didn't start until, yeah, I hate that with Twitch. If you're actually sitting there before they go live, then it hangs and it doesn't refresh. So for those of you that are eagle-eyed, let me switch the camera real fast. For those of you that are eagle-eyed, you may see something different. I don't know. If anybody can tell me what's different, let me know. Exactly, RFS. I've got the second box turtle build that I'm going to do. I've got to get that one configured from a software perspective and get it up and running on something. I just got word from DHL that the stand for the rat rig will get here Thursday, which means everything that is currently here needs to not be there. Which everything underneath has just been storage crap. Everything on top has turned into the normal horizontal surface, aka junk pile. So it's going to be good because, like I said, everything here has got to come out. I'm going to build the stand, get it put over there, and then I'll probably have Evil Diesel come by and just help me. There's no easy, good way of lifting this up. It's a beast and it's unwieldy. It's actually bigger in all dimensions than a Voron. So it's just safer to have a second person. I've already had 2 hernia operations. I don't need another one. Bexy, yes. And so, yes, Mrs. Dragon is dealing with stuff out in Colorado. I got a call about my dad passing out on Wednesday. Or not Wednesday. God, Monday. What day? Today's Tuesday. My dad passed out yesterday. There we go. So yeah, it's been weird. It's been weird. Um, did you get more fabulous than you already are? Is that a change? Well, no, I am fabulous, but that was not the change. Hey, Oval, welcome on in. Thank you for the follow. You have to finish Black Box and Stealth Changer before Earth. Um, don't kill yourself on Black Box, my friend. Black Box, you really need to go slow, and the the squarer your frame is and everything like that, especially on the tool changer, the better off you're going to be. So just take your time and please, please, please identify anything else in the build instructions as you go. Because we've been making changes between me, Steve, and Poity and Chris. We've been making changes to the build, but even when he did the wiring diagram and sent it over to me after Steve did, Steve was the first one to do the as included wiring harness, because I built my wiring from the ground up. Steve ran his through, and there was some discrepancies that I found in the wiring for the auxiliary fan. So just, please, it is a community project, and I know you're real good at that. So as you notice some weirdness, please let Chris know and get some feedback in. I appreciate that. Yeah, I need it. I need some type, like Steve was talking about, like a hydraulic cart, and I've looked at those from like Harbor Freight and stuff that you can like pump up and it'll do like scissor lift, raise up, and then you can drop it back down. I've looked at that. The problem is I'm up here in a bedroom on the 2nd floor. So that only helps me get stuff from a bench to something lower. It doesn't help me get it out of here or too much. Yeah. So all the huggies for you, Mr. Drain. Thank you, Bexy. I appreciate that. Yeah, I know. I'll reach out, Bexy. Getting some news I got today is good. So they want my dad to have an echocardiogram, and he was telling me, like, they called back and told him that they could get him in on the September 10th. And I'm like, that's like two and a half weeks away. Like, what the hell? And he goes, calm down. It was my cardiologist that set up the appointment. So he's good with that. I'm like, okay. If it was your cardiologist, we're good. But if it was just somebody else, like, oh yeah, take a couple weeks, no big deal, You're building Black Box in the new studio so I can go right. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, I'm telling you, it's a beast, and we got to pick it up, carry it downstairs, do the big loop around, and through the garage, because this room is right above the garage. So we just kind of go through the laundry room, out the garage, and into whatever vehicle. And I want to take the rat rig. The problem is, and I've got to go do measurements. I'm not sure if I can get the rat rig inside the truck. Nor do I know if I can get it inside the new Subaru Forester safely. Because the Vorons can almost barely get in there. And like I said, the rat rig's bigger in all dimensions. So I gotta look into that and make sure that we can get it safely in there without damaging a vehicle before I commit to bringing rat rig. If not, I know I can get this in the side of the truck, and I know I can get any of the Voron 300 size in the truck because I've done it before. Um, so if I can't get the rat rig in there, then I will get a Voron. And I may have to bring a Voron anyhow to do box turtle because it relies on a filament cutter. Dude, zombie. This is the 300 size. You keep saying you want the 500. The 500 is a true 500 cube, which means it's going to be taller by 200 millimeters. It's going to be wider by 200 millimeters in each direction. That's why I'm not doing a 500. Now I'm sitting here going, well, maybe it would have been better to have a 500, but wherever that goes, it ain't moving. And it would really need to go like in the garage or something. Nick, I just did buy a new car. Remember, Rocky Mountain Rep Rat Festival, the engine blew out on the Kia. So after that debacle, and after we got it back, and Miss Dragon was really hard bent on getting the last couple of thousand miles to put it over 100,000, we sold it and got a Subaru Forester. And like I said, it probably, because it's a hatchback, it might be easier to get it in the Forester. I just need to do measurements and make sure height-wise, because once again, a Voron's not a true 300 in the Z for build height. This is, and it's taller. So I just need to make sure that I can get it in without having to like lay it on its side and do all funky stuff. Oh, don't even get me started. I would love, after watching Josh Murray do his, I would love to talk to Luke Slab about a stable bot. And my wife would kill me. But I may talk to him about stable bot at 3D Printopia. I may talk to him about it while I'm out there. I do see a need for something like that, not something like an Orange Storm Giga. Right? Concrete printer win. Yeah, just take it and use the Hilti and just uh, shoot studs directly into the concrete, wrench it down, torque it down. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think, I mean, don't get me wrong. I am loving this rat rig. Prints are coming out beautiful on this. Oh, crap. Hi, Mrs. Dragon. Welcome on in. Love you. I'm doing coins. I got more. Got more. Just pulled some off. I switched the color up, so we're doing the silk red instead of the purple now. Or I'm sorry, silk rose. So we've got the silk rose ones going. You girls set me up, didn't you? You guys are. Pezliz is probably over there texting Mrs. Dragon. He's talking crazy again. Talking crazy again. Okay. So the title of this stream was actually finishing up the enclosure. So you can't really tell from this angle. I've got the back panel on and I've got both side panels on. And I've got the door pretty much ready to go on. We're going to finish up the top hat and basically make it so I can move this off the bench so that we can start working on box turtle maybe Thursday. You're staying out of this? Full color cardboard standees of the printer. Yeah, there you go. Um, Zombie, I can't replace the kitchen table with the printer because I've got 5 printers on both tables in the dining room right now. So, and this one will probably go sit down there and make number 6. So, because Miss Dragon's not here to tell me no. But I know that they have to be back off of there before she gets home. So, and oh, by the way, Mrs. Dragon, Ender 3 V2, I believe is spoken for, and one of my coworkers is talking to his brother about a couple of the other printers. So, well, see, that would have to be a lower but wider, which I've actually thought of. Like, I would love like a 300 by 600, but only like, a 150 height would be perfect for doing a large, like if you're trying to do a housing for something, or there's plenty of parts. Like you could do all kinds of parts in like a 300 by 600 build volume. But like when we're doing our printer parts, how many of them are this tall? They're not. That's why this printer is so awesome. You can only do one at a time. But if you had like this Z height, and if you had the 120 Z height and a 300 by 600 like footprint, that would be perfect for rolling out printer parts and a bunch of other stuff. I like it, but remember, I don't need 2,000. Um, okay, I got you. You'll have a box. I'll have a box. We'll all have a box. It's all good. It's all good. All right, sounds good, Bexy Beans. Oh, Zombie. I wanted to show you this. So, as you know, this is a rebuild, right? We have rebuilt this printer. Um, this is the old Z motor part. Okay, this was mounted on the Z motor. And as we sit here and look at this, you see this discoloration around here. That is most likely just discoloration, like Teflon coming off the rods and stuff like that, right? But once again, this piece sits on top of the motor and gets secured to the motor. So check this out, Zombie. Have you ever seen that on an ABS part? Your Trident is completely discolored. This is the bottom side though. This is the part that sits on the motor that's technically considered outside the build chamber. And it's only discolored where the edge of the motor is. So that must be heat discoloration from the face of the motor itself. Like I've never seen that before. Or at least never noticed it because I haven't taken one of my printers with, like this had 2,000 hours on it. That's why I didn't want to rebuild the software on it. Right? So yeah, that's weird and interesting. I just never seen the discoloration like that before. So thought that was interesting. It couldn't be oil. Like I said, this side is directly in contact with the top of the motor. Like you can see the square edge of the motor frame there, or the top of the motor there. So oil wouldn't have got into there. It's got to be heat, which is interesting. So we've got the printer here. I think what I may do is slide it back so we can build the top hat up here in front where we can actually, I don't know, see things. Because I hear that, some people actually like to watch people on stream build stuff. I don't know. I am going to reprint the, where back can I go? About right there. So the thing that people haven't caught on about yet is There's our ultralight frame. I was getting some weird harmonics, and so I decided to swap this out. And because half of these screws are torqued down there, and I tried to take them out and I stripped the heads out of them, this is going to forever be here unless I decide I want to really take the time, I don't know, drill the heads out. So this is that high wind rail. I lubricated it and reprinted, or actually I had these parts because remember we had to reprint the right ones for this rail. So that is the old rail. I basically just took it and rotated it 180 degrees. So the blemish sides are on the back and on the bottom, so you'll never see them. And I replaced it, rebelted it, and retensioned the belts. So that is the big thing. That was the big change, was doing that and then adding these sides. I am going to print the new version of the screen holder out, and then I'll do that off stream. It's just basically take the screen out of this housing, put it in the new housing, and attach it. It's, a couple of minutes. Turn down the voltage. I have turned down the voltage on these steppers lower than, I am lower than the default parameters. So, and this had been working perfectly fine. It was just making a weird harmonic. So it may be that my belts are tighter than they were, or I don't know. It could be something, right? Yes, I have removed the lightweight extrusion. I went back to the 2020, or excuse me, the 1515 extrusion with the high wind MGN 7H rail that that Hector gave me. God, I think he may have given that to me like either last 3D Printopia. I don't know. I've had it for a while. It's been sitting over here because I wasn't going to do anything with it until I rebuilt it. So here's the thing. This isn't that much of a pain to install on a V0. And this, I think, will make a little more sense on a V0 because it's a smaller distance. But when you start getting into a 300, 350, yeah. In fact, my carbon fiber ones on Faydragon, the V2.4, there's times where I've thought about taking those back off and going back to the extrusions, which I may still do at some point when I get in there and start redoing the tool head and everything. The machine extrusion that West 3D sells, not sure if I've seen that one. All I'm going to do here is just get all of the extrusions out. Yeah, well, and that's the thing too, is everybody's like, ooh, I can go lighter so I can go faster. And right now, I am printing this slow. That was my first thing, is when I was starting to print with it, I was like, why is it making that weird like sound? And I went and looked, and I was using the Orca, the default Orca slicer profile. And I was looking, I was like, well, it's putting files up differently, meaning they look different. So if I come in here to the G-code files, let me, so if I come in here and I start looking at the G-code files, you see how there's a difference in the background snapshots and stuff? So the ones like this that have kind of that gray background are the ones done in Orca Slicer. These were coming out of Prusa Slicer. So I went and looked at Prusa Slicer, and I had mine running a lot slower than the default settings in Orca Slicer for V0. And it's just one of those things. I've never really run my printers all that fast. I mean, yeah, it's kind of cool to do it once or twice just to show that it can. But I prefer running them slower and having less failed prints and strong, robust prints, right? Because I don't want to have to sit here and keep reprinting parts because the words. I don't want to have to keep reprinting parts because they're failing on a printer because they were run too fast, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And once again, the best way of printing faster is more of these. That's how you print faster. Is you have multiple printers printing things. Like I could literally knock out a printer build by going, you run a plate, 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 boom, I'm done. One plate across 5 or 6 printers, and I'm all done. Now you would need spools of filament for each one, but I normally have 2 or 3 of each color, so I can run, 3 doing primary parts and 2 doing 1 or 2 doing the accent parts and be done, right? So that's truly what it is if you want to go faster, get more printers. If you want to go faster more efficiently, get more of the same printers. Yeah. So right now we're going to start working on doing the top hat. Let me switch back over to the instruction. So basically what I've done is I just gone in here and started doing the panels. So we had the PTFE tube installed before. I actually, I've added the rear panels and the 2 side panels because you're installing them without using any VHB tape. I like that they switched to that because I can loosen up and remove the top ones, loosen up these screws without taking them all the way off, and just lift the panel off, do what I need to do, slide them back in, tighten them down, and then add the top ones. Makes it a little bit easier. And I will probably wind up taking this one back off to put my Nevermore back in here. Don't ask me why I didn't install that before. That was kind of a dumb move. The door panel itself, I've got the VHB. This is the part where you're going to do the VHB. So I've got the VHB pieces, on there. So that's ready to go. And the magnets are pushed in and on all the door hinge pieces. So these are all pushed in magnets. And polarity's obviously good. Polarity's working. So all I'll need to do is set this on and do my 2 screws. So an M3 by 40 at the top, M3 by 30 at the bottom. And that becomes the hinge. And then I'll put this over on its side so I can more easily work with the screws. Put the 2 handles in place, or the magnets for the handle in place, and then I'll mount the handle on there. And literally what I'm going to do is with the handle there, because this guarantees my spacing, I'll get it there, line it up about in the middle, take the door off, mount the door, and then push this in place to make sure that it all lines up properly. The extrusion top hat is where we're at now. So I'll set the door off to the side. I don't want to put the door on there just yet because we are printing with PLA. By the way, this is Polar Filaments, just red PLA. I've had it for a little bit. This is a Polar Filaments red. And I need to work on the, run through the Orca slicer stuff. It's printing good. The first one of these trucks I did, and even on this one, I didn't notice it at first. Oh, I'm sorry. I did not notice. That's not what I wanted at first, but I did pick up a little bit of elephant's foot here because I had too much squish. So I'm not sure if you can, yeah, you can kind of pick up there's a ridge there. That's indicative of too much squish. So I'm working on fixing the amount of squish that we've got. But all in all, I mean, this printed very nicely. And I'm going to go through and do, extrusion multiplier, this, that, and everything else. And then I'm also going to remount the, give me 1 second here. Use my dongle here. All this is a Raspberry Pi Pico that does the input shaping and an accelerometer. I can just change whatever mount I need to mount it to the front here. And we'll do input shaping hanging off the front of the printer, or off the front of the extruder. And we'll go through and do input shaping that way. And once we get, basically what we're going to redo is the input shaping on this to make sure that right now I'm using the older values. We'll make sure and update those numbers as well. Basically just do tuning to get this dialed in a bit. So we're going to start by doing some preloaded nuts here. We need all 4 of them. Let's say all 4 of them. We're going to preload some nuts. Yep, all 4 of these. None of them have any screw holes in them, so that's good. So we're going to have 4 of them. We're going to preload some nuts, and then we're going to do some button head screws. Grab the nuts, please, Luke. Also, something I almost forgot. Yeah, almost forgot, and I might not know what I did with it. I did have, somewhere in the pile over here, I do have a light bar for this. So we will be adding a light bar somewhere in here in the top hat. Okay, so we've got our M3 nuts here. And 2 and 2. So 2 of the sides get 2 M3 nuts each. So, Mrs. Dragon, are you back home already? Or by home meaning your mom's place, or are you still hanging with her at the hospital? Coffee time! How's it going, Mr. Wizzix? I've got to make a Dunkin' run here eventually. I did get in, so I did go for a massage yesterday. And every time I go to massage, there's a Tijuana Flats right next to it. So I did eat Tijuana Flats. So I got tacos a day early. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Did somebody say Duncan? Yes. Um, the one thing that sucks with Mrs. Dragon being gone is I haven't been doing Duncan runs. So sad days going there, but I am loaded with coffee nonetheless. Chris! Yeah, so I had to give Chris a hard time because I got him one of a build plate. And I got him a build plate so we can show him off at shows and stuff. But he was doing some black box stuff and he didn't have this out. And I was like, wait a minute, where's your build plate? You need to be showing off your build plate. So I know. Well, yeah, I am. There is a part of me that's like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to like drive a nozzle into this sucker. Because, yeah, it is nice. We need to, we need to talk with, what's his name, and see if we can't, and by we, I mean you, see if we can't get some stock on hand of those. Because I really think that would be cool to have as a as the build plate in the black box kit. Maybe I'm just, biased because I worked with Phil on it, but okay, we also need to go and put some M3x10 button heads in the ends here. And I believe we have been doing Loctite on all of these. I'm not going to Loctite these. I don't see a need to put Loctite on the top hat. If for some reason they start shaking loose, then I'll rethink that position. But I don't think I'm going to need. I don't think I'm going to need to. And the other thing, Chris, is I do need to start putting some more time on the black box and start doing, just start breaking her in a bit more. I've done a few prints since I've been back, and we did the updates, but I'm thinking I need to reprint a basic body of my droid build in all white Polymaker. So I can do that on black box. I know I can try and do color, but the tool change, oh my God. I was trying to do multicolor on the Prusa, and it was going to be like almost 2 days to do the little droid body. And that's just the main body. That's not going through and redoing all the parts. So I'd have to, I may still do it, but it would be done after the show. Like for the show, I think I'm going to wind up having to paint it, in which case I'm just going to use paint markers, and that figures. Because I've got some acrylic paint markers that I'll use. Hey, come on now. Come on now. Stop that. Sitting here talking and my nuts keep running away from me. Hey, Ozzy, how's it going? Ram, welcome in. Mr. Wizix. So, Chris, we got, there was a couple of us talking. Actually, not a couple of us talking. Shenanigans was talking when I was talking to him on his stream. So starting Thursday, I have been cleared to build this on stream. This is the box turtle. This is what I've been talking to you about. It's total of 8 extrusions, printed corners, nice amount of hardware. So simple extruders with NEMA 14 motors. There's N20 motors up here that drive the e-spooler wheels. These are TPU wheels. We're running a Big Tree Tech MMU board for now and a MOSFETi. So the MOSFETi is basically a four-channel motor controller, and that's what we're going to use to run the 5-volt N20 motors in the e-spoolers. It's the only thing I have left to cable up on this other than adding lights and then running my PTFE tubes. So we've got, there's end stops at each of the e-spoolers. There's end stops at each of the 4 extruders, and there's an end stop here in the hub. So we've got plenty of sensors to detect where the filament is in the box, right? And then you'll add it to, say, a filametrics on a Voron. So I've got a couple of more of those printing right now, so I can rebuild tool heads in like Iron Dragon, Bay Dragon, and Kyber Dragon. So I'll be able to run one of those on any of those boards or any of those installs. And eventually they're going to have I say eventually they're going to have, there are beta boards right now for a custom board to run it. I've got 2 of those on order through Armored Turtle. And once we get those in, I'll switch those into at least one of those 2. But I'll be bringing that to 3D Printopia. Okay, so it looks like we're going to install these. Now it doesn't say, or does it? Yeah, it's not saying in which direction your thing should be, your M3 nuts, but it should be top and outer edge. So this one has them at the top, and on this outer edge. So these are upright, so I want the outer edge facing the table, the top facing out. We'll slide this on here, and we'll use our 1, 2, 3 blocks to cover, or not cover things, but to, that's in a bad place. Give me a second. Take that, we'll make it smaller. There we go. Now we can see. We'll use our driver here. We're going to use this one to keep the edges flush. We'll bring this one in here and use it to keep a 90-degree. There's one side, and I'm just going to take it, turn it around. We'll grab another one. Same thing. This side is going to be used as the keeping everything flush and parallel. This one will be used to tighten or ensure that we stay at 90. And I'm just going to get it somewhat snugged up. There we go. And then I'll press everything together and make sure that we stay flush and 90. So there's one done. We'll grab the next one. And this one's going to need to be the opposite direction. So we've got our two here. So because the first one we put our side down this way, I'm going to take the side and put it down that way this time. And we'll go ahead and put our first leg on. Like I said, all I'm trying to do is get it close to being tight, and then I'll come in here and apply some force to make sure it stays nice and flush. Nice and flush this time. Why is it getting just out of flush? Don't get it. Okay. Turn it around and we're going to do the other side. Hey, Kegel, how's it going? Welcome on in. Shrimp Father, welcome in. Aussie, how's it going? You're just putting an A1 combo together. That's pretty cool. You know, I tell you what, a lot of people talk about the bamboos and stuff, but having finally got a couple, it's good. It's definitely, you know, the ecosystem is there now to make it worthwhile. Okay, so once again, we've got the top and the outer edge. So we'll go, what do we got there? Wrench access. Now you want me to put ones at the bottom of the frame for the cam locks. I'm just going to finish building the frame first. So once again, outer edge, top. Top's on this side now. So I want to take this top, outer edge, and so this one is going to slide in this direction. So once again, I've got a set of nuts up here and on the table and facing me. Yeah, the bamboos are really good at you know, I'll say the closest thing we have to the kitchen appliance as far as a 3D printer goes. A pre-built Prusa is in the same boat as well. I'm really impressed with those as well. So we've got a few consumer options that are really good. And then for those of us that like to, I'll say, pimp our ride, we've got plenty of options. The K1, I can never, you know, I can't make a comment on the Creality K1s because I don't have them. The Ender 3, I had to put a decent amount of time into making it properly functional, if that makes sense. All right, so now we've got our tops once again are facing this way. Outer edge would be against the table. So there's the outer edge ones, there's the top ones. Let's go this way. And this should be able to slide in. And then we will start tightening this up. turn around and do the same thing. And there's been times where I've like, well, maybe I should get a K1 and try it out. And then every time I go to the store, like Micro Center, and look, I'm just like, nah. Where did that go? It's just, I don't know. I know some people really like their Crealities, and I get it. It's just not for me. Yeah, there's a little bit there. I'm going to go through each corner here and just lightly loosen them, and then make sure that we're flat on all sides. And like I said, when I say lightly loosen, I'm talking like corner turn. And all I'm wanting to do is make sure that all of these are flush on the table. Hey Ash, how's it going? Welcome on in. Did the photos help, my friend? I hope they did. Sold your two K1s and an Ender 3 and got two more A1s. There you go. And once again, people talk about, well, the A1s, well, it's the A1 Mini that's smaller, but, even an A1 Mini at that size and price point, it's a fabulous deal. All right, so something is. It's a fabulous deal, and the you know if people sit there and go, oh, it's too small of a build volume. How many times do you fill up a full plate on like an A1 or an X1 or anything like that? I mean, you can, but how often do you? And once again, do you need to, or are you just literally filling the plate with prints to do a large batch, which takes more time, right? So, all right, cool. Well, that's the thing is, I'm just glad that they help. So, thank you for the feedback there, Ash. We all want larger printers, but like I said, if you're only printing one or two things on a larger printer and then it just sits there. And as we all know with Joel and several others, larger prints mean larger print fails. And if you're 4 days into a print and all of a sudden you have a layer shift, you're 4 days and a lot of material into it. And if you're on a deadline for something, that's going to hurt. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of use out of my bamboos because, like you said, it's slice and print, slice and print. But the nice thing with my Vorons, because I've got um, two Voron 2.4 300s and a Trident 300, believe it or not, you can take the same file, move it over to from a Trident to a 2.4, and say go, because the difference between quad gantry level and Z tilt, it isn't in the slice file, it's in your macros. So the same slice file, as long as they're the same nozzle, you know, boom, it just goes. And there's been times where I've clogged a nozzle or something on the 2.4 and I just downloaded it and uploaded it to the Trident and ran the same slice and it goes. You could even do it on like a 350. It'll just be off center, right? But okay, I was gonna do these, and I need to do, what were these? These were M3 by 10s on the front and only the front. So the front and only the front will have M10 screws or M3 by 10 screws. We will need that little printable tool jig. So where's my tools? Here's my tools. And in there is the little printable jig. Whoops, is the printable jig tool. And we're going to use this spot right here to set that gap that we need for the cam lock. So let me do that real fast with a couple of M3 by 10s. And because these are going to be used with the cam locking system to hold it in place, I am going to put a little bit of Loctite on these. Um, and yeah, I mean, and I mean, nozzle clogs and stuff like that, there is maintenance on any 3D printer, right? There's going to be maintenance required on any 3D printer. Um, so, as long as you do said maintenance, you're not going to have any problems, you know? Um, I like some of the things that have come into the industry lately, like Voron Tap. I like the beacon probe for getting a good first layer. I haven't had to change the first layer on the K3 since I've built it, and I have run that through 2 or 3 shows now. And one of those was fully cross country to Colorado, right? So the fact that it can keep and maintain that zero over time is great. And like I said, even okay, yeah, so we're going to verify we have 2 M3 nuts on each side and 2 M3 nuts on each side at the top, which we do. And now we got to put our top hat on. So VHB is not needed on these panels, which is, like I said, really nice because, VHBing all of your panels is good, but it's also a pain in the butt. And I also noticed it hasn't said anything about doing whatchamacallit, the foam tape. So we haven't foam taped any of the panels yet either. So we're going to go ahead and take off the paper cover on our top hat panel. And by the way, the top hat that I'm building right now and everything else, this is a V01 to V02 upgrade kit from KB3D. So I did get this from Chris. I bought it. It wasn't a gift. I did buy this. And it's been sitting here for a while. This has been on the back burner for quite a while. Just been on the back burner behind several other projects. So we're getting around to it. If you break it really good, it will never need maintenance again. That true. If you break things really good, it doesn't need maintenance. You just need a replacement. Like Chris didn't have to deal with a clog. He just had to replace the entire Revo nozzle when he bent it on the tool changer. Okay, and these are the four corners. Yeah, they're trying to think how to say this. So we've got corners like this that have a sloped profile on them, look a little different. These are I'll say symmetrical across that diagonal point. So these are the four that we're going to use, and they're going to be on each of the four corners here. And it's just a matter of getting the whatchamacallit, the nuts lined up. Jesus. And folks, if I seem a little more off than normal and not able to put coherent sentences together, it's just, please bear with me. Like I said, we've had a lot of intense stuff going on lately with family and health stuff. So sleep schedule is all jacked up, and we've been on the worry train a lot lately. And we just missed completely with that one. So push that back out there and see if we can't get it in the right spot now. There we go. Thank you for the follow, J Sims Printing. I appreciate that. Welcome on in. Oh, exactly, Ash Prince. You know, we hadn't even really gotten into the you know, the waste and stuff. And I mean, I have not been recycling my plastic just because I don't have a good means of recycling the plastic where I'm at right now. But if I can find a good means, I will definitely start doing that. I know there are some options that people have talked about, and even so much as, you know, just taking and melting down and making it into sheets and then doing other stuff with the plastic sheets. That works, but you got to be careful and make sure that you really separate out your um, your failures, your purge blocks, your prime lines and stuff like that, your skirts and all that supports. I mean, you can generate a ton of waste material. Um, I didn't even think about that either. I have not. So quite honestly, I have not been separating my stuff out, and I didn't even think that if I was, I know that what's his name, Josh from the Recreator, is Recreator, right? Has started to collect, and I wonder if he would be willing to, like, was it IC3D? Did I see 3D or Greengate that collects spools at some of the shows, like used plastic spools, and uses them to spool their filament on, right? One less thing that's going into the landfill, right? So I wonder, because I know he was collecting, I'll say, uh, poop and stuff. So I'm wondering if he would be willing to take people's recycle. Like if that's something that he would be in a position or willing to do, maybe not for like everybody, but if there's a couple of people that would bring him stuff at the shows, I wonder if that's something he would be willing to do. And there is a cottage market out there that takes um, recycled plastics and uses it to make other things, whether it's just taking it down to pellets or taking it down to pellets and then making sheets, and then selling the sheets to other local people who are using it to make a finished product. I'm trying to remember the name of that group, but it's like a business model of, you know, they've got the pelletizers, they've got the sheet presses, they've got um, the shredders or grinding machines, right? And you can basically, you don't have to be an all in one. You can just start off and be like, okay, I'm going to take all the recycled plastics and shred it down to a consistent pelletized form, right? And that's it. That's just your part of the thing, and that works if you've got somebody nearby that can consume the pellets, or if you've got somebody that you know can do the injection molding, or you want to do the injection molding too, then you can make you can shred the material, you can make the pellets, and then you can do the injection molding, right? So there's just various parts that you can do, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of it now. But I mean, I think that's an interesting business model, and just seeing the amount of waste that I produce, it does make a lot of sense to do something about it. Yeah, can only do so much. I agree with that, right? And the thing is have the desire, and then when the means and the desire match, you know, because once again, if you can collect the waste, wash the waste, and shred the waste, and get a solid product, okay, great. Is there anybody that can consume that from you? If not, or if you're then having to ship that um, over long distances, it may change the math and it may not be worthwhile anymore, right? So it has to make good business sense, and you have to have the rest of the chain available to you. because some people are, recycling straight up plastic like standard PET and stuff like that. And then others are doing PLA, PETG, and stuff like that as far as 3D printed materials go. And it's going to have a different customer base. Right? Okay, so now we'll start putting the sides on. And with that, we'll have the screws in at the side or at the top sidebar already, and then we'll add the screws into the bottom side here as we install the panels. So let me get out. These look like they're going to be standard corner pieces. So we've got the tapered edge here, and then this has the slight taper on it and no edge at the bottom here. I believe that's the ones that we're going to be using for the corner pieces. So corner, 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 base, corner, base, base, corner, 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 base, base, base. Then these will be the back. I think that's all we're going to need. So we'll just take these out one at a time and get these installed. I really need to stop that merch link because I don't have merch with Stream Elements anymore. They did switch over to Fourth Wall, and I have not recreated merch over on Fourth Wall just yet. I think it was Fourth Wall. So I need to work on getting that merch back up and running. We may go and do some different designs. So we might have something about lubing rods and balls since we tend to do that on stream a lot. Little tongue-in-cheek humor here and there. All righty. Okay, let's see. So we're going to start getting this top one in here. So we're pressed up firmly. I want to get the top one started over on the other side. It'll just be the manner of finding the right one that has the slope that's going towards the inside edge here. And getting our piece sitting down on there and lining the nut up. Okay, now we got the top then. We'll just add our other nuts up there. Get the side edge in, and then we'll do the other side edge ones down here. Ah. We are using M3x8s to put all of these little panel pieces in. Kind of the standard size for these. And we're just going to do the same thing and work our way around the four sides. The rear, well, let me rephrase that. The front, the side, and then the back is going to be slightly different in the pieces that mount. Okay. And by the way, this is now cooled off, so I should be able to pop this off. And other than the fact that I've got, for what other reason, I do not have supports on this, but it is showing supports. And I still think my layer, whoops, I still think that my layer squish on here is a bit too much because I'm losing some definition around the window unless, once again, it's trying to do some type of a support material, but wheels move, and yeah, there's support down there as well. I probably can't use these for the Toys for Tots unless I can get in there and clean up and dig out that support. But there's the Z-axis layer line, so we're getting really good consistent layers laid down here, right? Everything's working, everything looks very nice. Another cool fix-em-dude truck, but like I said, I need to work on getting this first layer squished. It looks like it's just still a little too squished. So I'll raise that up a little bit more and we'll get another one going. Yeah, it might be doable. I'll take a look at if I can clean it up a little bit more. But yeah. Okay, the little side pieces here, I think what I'm going to want to do, or what will be a little bit easier, is to get my screw on there, put a nut on it, kind of like doing a hammerhead T-nut type of thing. We're just going to get the nut started, and we should be able to line it up and slide it in there. Good. There we go. Just like that. Kind of line it up right at the bottom. And tighten it down. Do the same thing over on the other side here. The front facing one. Hey Chris, are you still there? KB3D Chris? Okay, so there's one side done. I'm gonna not do the back just yet. I'm gonna work my way to the front and we'll just keep doing this. And once again, we'll get a print started over here again. We're just gonna keep doing the same print. Even if I can't give them for the FDM, I've got some little kids in the neighborhood I can give them to, or I'm sorry, if I can't use them for Toys for Tots, I can give them to the kids in the neighborhood. They're gonna, they'll love them. I got some little ones here, so. Also, for those of you that are going to 3D Printopia, um, I want to reiterate a notice that was put out by the 3D Printopia folks, and this is a requirement of the venue. So let me rephrase that. This is a requirement of the venue. If you take a soft foam flinging device or some other type of 3D printed prop weapon, it cannot, under any circumstances, have any type of ammunition that comes out of the barrel. If you are caught shooting one of your Nerf blasters at the venue, because it is that venue is school property. So if you release a foam dart from a blaster or anything from some other type of prop, you and your entire group will be asked to leave the venue. And you will not be allowed back in until teardown time to tear down your table. And I would have to say, based on their other rules and guidelines, that if you are not manning your table, you will probably not be given a table slot the next year. Because that was one of the big things with the Creality event was they scheduled the Creality event to occur at the same time as Teardown last year. And we had to talk to them because we couldn't be at the Creality event and not be there or I'm sorry, was it Teardown? Anyhow, it would have required us to tear down and leave early. Yeah, their timing was right during teardown. So we would have had to have torn down and left early. And if you do that at 3D Printopia, you don't get invited back. So a bunch of us had to chat with Creality about that because we had wanted to go to the Creality event, but we couldn't if it meant that it would prevent us from being able to do future events. So just want to reiterate that. I know that was given out to all the makers and the sponsors, people that are sponsoring tables, but it goes for anybody. So I figured it would be worthwhile to pass that public service announcement out to everybody. And once again, like I said, I'm going to just sit here and continue to build up the top hat, and we're continuing to print. I will work on, like I said, doing some more tuning of the printer. I haven't done any real tuning. It's still using the old settings and profile because, well, it worked in the past, so I don't know why it wouldn't be working good now, type of thing. So that was my plan, but I get it. We rebuilt it. The frame might be a little bit different. It might be a little more robust. The belts might be a little bit tighter, so it's probably worth the time and effort to go through and redo input shaper and some of the other stuff. And especially now since we've got some better tools to be doing all that stuff with Orca, and some of the calibration tests are a little bit easier now. Some of them are more automated, so we're not going through and doing a bunch of uh, eyeball measurements here and there, so to speak. So all right, and I'm getting a little concerned. I see people are still in chat, but I'm not seeing anybody chat. So I just want to make sure that I'm not seeing drop packets, but can somebody confirm that I'm still live? Because it got real quiet in here. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wizix. I was starting to worry. Starting to worry. Packaging prints. Well, that's cool. So what you're seeing me do right here is just get a couple of these started. And I know I haven't put the plastic in yet, but another way you can do it is get these things started, because like I said, you can always slip your plastic in later or take it out if you need to work on something. So you do a lot of car theme stuff, right, Ash? So you're doing the laser cut decals, but you're also doing like keychains and stuff. Is that what your prints are primarily? How's it going, Shenanigans? Thought you were driving somewhere. We've got the V0 running again as a V0.2 spec. And all I'm doing right now is just putting the panels back on her. And we're redoing the top hat, of course, because they use a different top hat on the V02. So we're just getting that set up so we can put it on there, and it'll be fully enclosed. I'll still need to, I've got the door ready. I just need to like put it down on its side to get the door actually set on there. So I'll do that after I'm printing, or I guess I can do it while I'm printing technically. So Shenanigans, one thing that we're going to start on Thursday is, well, I've gotten clearance to do a box turtle build on stream. I can't do, I can't give the the files or the CAD or anything like that. I can show the CAD, but I can't distribute the files. But I am going to go ahead and build one on stream starting Thursday. And if you're interested in what the box turtle is and don't know what the box turtle is, it is basically a open source AMS project, right? So scoot this right over here for a moment. So it's a 4-lane, basically an AMS. We've got a small N20 motor up here that we use to drive the front rollers, okay? And that will be to pull it forward and reverse it. We do have a filament sensor in the front portion here. So when you, it's just like a, kind of just like an AMS. There's a filament sensor in the front of each spot. These are movable, so if you're using like a sample spool or a bigger spool, these are movable rollers in the back. We do have a 4-into-1 setup. We do have a filament sensor here. We've got a separate extruder for each one, and that's to take the we'll say take the resistance off of the main extruder. So we've got 4 different extruders, and there are sensors in here. So we'll see the filament come in. We'll see the filament as it goes through the extruder, and then the filament as it goes through the hub. So we've got 3 different sensors in here to tell us where that filament is. So if we have a break, we know where to go to fix it, right? And then it'll come out here and go into your printer, and you'll need a tool head based cutter. So a Filometrics type setup on like a stealth burner. Right now we're using a Big Tree Tech MMU, and we've got the 4 stepper motors are going to the 4 motors running TMC 2209s. The 4 e-spooler motors up here will be running to this MOSFETi. It's actually called a MOSFETi. You can get it off of like pieshop.com or PieHut, a couple other places. And this is basically a 4 motor driver, right? These are running these little 4 5-volt N20 size motors. And yeah, it's set up to run either CAN bus or I'm not sure if I'll run it CAN bus. So I can run it off my printers doing CAN bus today, no problem. In fact, because I've got a CAN bus set up on the 350 Trident and it's running a Big Tree Tech MMU, there's no controller firmware on. I mean, there's firmware, right? There's Clipper here, but all of the, whether it's Happy Hair or whatever that you're using to control your AMS or an MMU unit, it's on the Raspberry Pi. It's all Python modules. So I could basically just bypass the ERCFA, load the firmware up there, and rather than calling the Happy Hair, call the ACF Lite firmware or software, I should say, and be able to run that and compare and contrast that to the ERCFA, right? So, you missed what I asked before. I was just asking if everybody was okay out there because it got really, really quiet. And while my software was telling me I was still live, I get worried when there's no chatting going on. Like, I just don't know if my stream has died or if it died on Twitch's end instead of OBS. So I just have to call it or call out and check every once in a while. really got to figure out, there's one type of coffee that I get from Black Rifle Coffee Company. And for whatever reason, those Keurig pods, I almost always get grounds in the coffee mug. Now, I don't mind grounds per se. Once again, I am military. I have been known to basically dip coffee grounds in coffee beans. Yes. Oh, one more of these. It's just, I know when I'm doing it then. When you're just drinking a cup of coffee and you're not expecting it and you get a mouthful of grounds, it annoys you. Or at least it annoys me. Okay, so once again, the front is the one that has the screws in it because that's what's going to go in these cam locks here. So we've got the two sides in the front done. Now we're on to the back, and the back's going to be a little bit different. So it's held on slightly differently. We're still going to have the corners up at the top, but the sides are going to be different. So let's get these prepped and ready. And I'm going to be just shy on my M3x8 button heads, but that's because I took a lot of them out and put them over here. So I was trying to move all of my screws out of the bends and get them over into my Screwfinity unit. So that one there. Go over on the other side. Oh. Come on. Here we go. Go ahead and push that up. I'll lock these down now. So Shenanigans, how much more progress did you make on your slider? I had a couple of meetings, so I had to miss the back portion of it before you stopped your stream for the day. I was sitting there trying to figure out, I was like, okay, what's he making a camera slider for? And then I realized that you were making basically like a thrust load cell or something. Work lurk. Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Be safe. Liberdade, thank you for the follow. Welcome on in. You tested the parts before you left? Nice. Nice. Yeah, you always come up with interesting projects. Whether it's, trying to set stuff on fire or, you know, things like that. So, okay, the whatchamacallits go down and the offsets. Um, so the pins, because this is going to be a pinned hinge, goes towards the bottom, and the offset or the flat edge here is going to be on the outside. So that's how we'll set these in here. And once again, these go in with M3x8 button heads. And so we'll get these going with some hex nuts as if they were hammerhead T-nuts or something. We'll just get those started on there. So for those of you that may just be following or may just be joining in, we are working on final touches to the V01 to V02 upgrade. This is a Voron design V01. This is the first Voron that I have ever, that I ever built, and we're just rebuilding it and updating it to the latest version of the specification. And as you can see in the background, it's up in printing. We're just putting together the top hat, and I got the enclosure put on it before stream. Or actually last night, I should say. So between streams, I put the main panels of the enclosure on. And I will say, closing everything up in the back, I forgot because I was running a split back before. The Raspberry Pi does get warm, so I do need to get the cooling fan installed in the back. I believe the fan I got for it is a 5-volt, which would plug into the Raspberry Pi or somewhere else on the board. So I need to work on getting that set up or swap it out for like a 24-volt and plug it in somewhere else on my board. That's just something we can do off stream or whatever. Just one of those things I'll say that I need to get done. The other thing I need to get done is we're currently running the previous display piece. I need to reprint these. I never printed these, so I need to find the right blue again and reprint this in the right blue so that we can swap the mount out for that. So we've got that. The two knobs back here, they're the old knobs. The new filaments that I used in this build are both a filled filament. They're a carbon filled filament, and therefore they're rough. So threading is a little rough on them. So I'm most likely just going to leave these in place. I also did not reprint the tool head. That is a black tool head. It is running um, a mini after Sherpa tool head. I did not rebuild the tool head at all. The nice thing about this tool head is I unplug the 12-pin cable from the back. I take out 2 screws in the front and the whole tool head comes off. And I didn't think it was worth reprinting and rebuilding a tool head that is working, that has been working. You know, once again, we've got, well, I look at the history on here. Flip over to full display real fast. We've got 2,085 hours on the printer since I built it. So I don't want to, make any changes that would require me to rebuild software or anything on here. This print head has been working fabulously, so I'm cool leaving it the way it is. Yeah, this one has always worked. And this right here, the Mini After Sherpa on this printer, is what caused me to fall in love with the Sherpa Mini. I love the Sherpa Mini, and I love the Orbiter. I've got several Orbiter 2s. In fact, both of my 0G Mercury builds have Orbiter 02s or Orbiter 2.0s on them. The Rat Rig came with an Orbiter 2.0 on it. I've picked up the filament sensor and the Orbitool tool board for it. So I may swap out the tool board on it. I've got to make sure that I have enough places to plug everything back in. There's a Sherpa on the K3. There was a Sherpa on the whatchamacallit, the Ender 3 that's over at Evil Diesel's house. So I just love those. Just love them. So we need to set this up and get the pin going on it. I'm sorry. Went to the wrong one. There we go. So we've got the hinges ready, or the hinges installed, ready to go. And the hinges are M3 by 12 basically. Attach the hinge to the top hat hinge to the bottom hinge with M3 by 12 button head cap screws. Carefully screw these bolts into the plastic part. Be careful threading screws directly into plastic. If you over tighten, they will strip out. Okay, so I need a couple of M3 by 12 screws. And we're just going to go through this side into the hinge back here. I'm just going to set this on top for now to get things lined up. Maybe. Why is that not lining up? Okay. These are on the outside, yep. These are on the inside. Yes, they are. Why are those pieces not lining up? Okay. These are lined up right. because they're lined up so the corners are coming together. So these need to be moved fully up. Okay, that makes sense now. The blues look really nice. Thank you. Yeah, the blue's my favorite color. So I will almost always defer to blue. And the previous color scheme on here was actually blue and black. And I know people are like, never do blue and black. I like the look. It looks great to me. Maybe it's too many years of being in the military and wearing um, blue jeans and black shirts because, well, that was my, we'll just say that was my aesthetic, was the black undershirt for my uniform and the and blue jeans after work. So what if I just do? Hey, Pezlis is back. But yeah, this is a nice blue. This was 3DO ASA CF blue, and the gray parts are 3DO ASA carbon gray. And I'm trying to do this fairly quickly because, like I said, I am printing with PLA. I am starting to trap heat in the top. All right, thanks, Ash. Take it easy and let me know if you have any other questions on the uh, Rook 2020 build. Probably just walk around and do this. So this is showing um, the the hinges of the top hat being all the way up. But I remembered there's two different sizes of top hat for the V0.2. And I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I think it's like 100 millimeters and 60 millimeters. So if you're doing 60 millimeters, it's most likely going to be right up against the top corner pieces. If you're doing like I've got here with the longer ones, not so much. And so this will open up. And then when you're not printing PLA or PETG and you need the thermal heat for like ABS, ASA, stuff like that to print a little bit nicer, you would close this down. And there's cam locks here. You would open the cam locks, it would close down, and then you would lock the cam locks back. It's not going to work with the with this particular driver, and I think it's a 5 millimeter driver. So, and then we'll hang the door as well. This is once again a 40 millimeter from the top and 30 from the bottom, I think. Yeah, 40 from the top, 30 from the bottom. We can go ahead and get that set up. We might run into this just because this is not the appropriate one for this new design structure. Headed to the store. Need to buy a mop. That doesn't sound like a fun reason to be going to the store, Pezliz. I need to go to the store and get some, I'll say, treats. Um, but I did, believe it or not, find that you can get like 3-pound bags of Hershey's Kisses on Amazon. Oh, it barely clears the top there. So here's something I'm going to do. I need to put this one in. It goes in from the bottom up, which I don't have clearance to get to. So we're just going to set it over on its side for a moment. It's going to happily print that way, by the way. Do, 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 do. Yeah, a mop is not a good reason to have to go to the store. Clothes shopping, shoe shopping, electronics. Ooh, I got to talk to, it's a Pulo. I got to reach out to him because Evil Diesel wants to go to Micro Center. But he said after the 1st, which is here in a couple of days. So maybe we go up there on, or no, I was going to say maybe we go up there on Sunday, but I can't because I have to go up to Virginia. Something about, my mother's 80th birthday. I'm pretty sure if I miss that, I'm going to get in trouble. Especially if I miss it because I decided to go to Micro Center. So we've got 4 nuts down here. And what we're going to do is get these mounted. Once again, M3x8s. One, two, three, 4. This is a little more fun because we're dealing with a part that has magnets in it, which is always fun when you're trying to put screws in place. That's not going to work because you need the smaller side. Okay. 8's right. Okay, so that one's there. And the issue I just had was the magnetism pulled that too far. And I don't want this tightened all the way. I just need it so that the, darn it. I just need it so that the screws are in the nuts, but I can still move it around because that will let me set the correct spacing. There we go. One down, one to go. Valerie said happy birthday. I will. I will. We'll see how it goes. You know, for whatever reason, we're going up to my brother's in Virginia instead of him coming down here. So I don't know what that's about, but whatever. I'll do what needs to be done. But going up there, at least there is a micro center in Fairfax, so I could always still go up there, but then I'm going up there without Evil Diesel. All right, so here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to use this now with the handle. Let me switch the camera up so you might be able to see a little bit better here. So the handle's attached right here, right? So I'm able to move the handle fully up, down, and around. What we're going to do is we're just going to find where we want to put the handle. You know, don't really care per se where. Maybe go a little bit off kilter there. There we go. We'll go ahead and lock this down. Once again, using the handle to keep our spacing correct. Right? And then what we'll do is we'll put VHB tape on here over our magnets. We'll close the door, and then we will set that right there. That should keep our things closed. I have a feeling that we're just a little too tight on these hinges. There we go. Door would be closed just like that. So once again, I'll just need to get some VHB tape set up on here. Just cut a couple of thin strips. Don't cut yourself in the process. And once again, we'll pull off the sticky stuff. We'll adhere this to the door. closed position so that we can get a good stick. And hey, thanks for the follow. As Meepo, welcome on in. We are finishing up the build of the Voron V0.1 rebuild. I've had a kit for a little while to do the upgrade from a V0.1 to a V0.2. And when we did this, we already had the Kirigami bed on the V0.1, so we kept that. We already had the a Nevermore, which I just need to stick back in here. We had the tool head. We just left in the same configuration. I was using a V0 umbilical. So all that is a, we'll say a dumb breakout board between the rear motors that has a 12 pin, I'm pretty sure it's 12 pin connector that goes between that rear tool board and the tool board that goes on the hot end extruder combo itself. So everything in the hot end plugs into that board. You just have the one 11 pin connector that goes between the tool head and the back panel breakout board. And it really makes maintenance a lot easier. All you have to do is unplug that one connector and unscrew 2 screws in the front, and the whole tool head comes off. And you can bring it over the bench to do whatever maintenance you needed to do. And then, 2 screws to mount it back to the gantry, and the sorry, I'm having a dickens of a time with this, getting the tape off this piece of VHP again. You just screw those 2 screws in and plug the cable in, and you're back up and running. So if you have like a thermistor that dies, it's really easy to pull the tool head off, bring it over to the bench, get your old thermistor out or your old heater core out, put the new one in, re-terminate it. You do it at the bench so you're not trying to work in small cramped places. And then you're ready to go again. All I'm going to do is just get this close to where the magnets pull on it. And I'm going to use that to set the tension, or set the tension, to set the location, apply a little bit of pressure. And I will put this back up right and open the door. Because once again, we are printing PLA right now. We've just been testing. I always start off my prints with PLA. That way I can test things out and make sure things are working right before I start putting the enclosure in. Once you start putting enclosure on, you lose handholds and the ability to move things around a lot easier. This being a smallish printer is not that bad, so no big deal there. Like I said, I do need to put the Nevermore back in here, and my intent is not to reprint the Nevermore, so it will not match the same colors. But it'll give you an idea of what my old colors were. So, aren't you? Will you? Okay. So that's the old color. Whoop, that's the old color scheme for the blue and the black. And like I said, I just don't want to go through and reprint all of this. This is a working Nevermore. It works just fine, other than my magnets keep coming out from the charcoal piece. This lower portion is going to mount with 4 screws, and then I'll route the wire around the corner down through the Z hole there and plug it into the controller board, and I'll have my Nevermore up and running again, and I'll swap out my my charcoal here, activated charcoal, and I'll have my air filter going again. Yeah, so slab stations, once again, because this is a V01, we tore it down to basically the rear H-frame. I did not want to remove the Z and have to deal with straightening the Z and everything. On the electronics, I literally, we took the 2 screws, undid the cable back here, took the tool head off, set it aside. We did not rebuild the tool head. This rear PCB board here, I took the 2 screws that hold this in place out, and I took the Big Tree Tech SKR Mini E3V2 board out and just left them all connected together and set it to the side. Basically, I undid the power supply, I undid the A, B, and Z motors. Everything else came out in one, and we just set it aside. So when it came time to put it back in, it was literally put it back in, plug 3 motors in, mount the rear upper breakout board, and boom, all the electronics was done. There was no need to redo any wires really. We did do a little bit of wiring because I wanted to run the 5-volt power. Well, let me rephrase that. Rather than switching over to UART because I was using USB before, I just reused the USB. So all I had to do was we removed the X and Y end stops. So I needed to add diag pins for the X and Y steppers in order to do sensorless homing. We went through and made a few config changes, and we're off to the races again. I still do want to go through and do a little bit of tuning on this, but yeah, it's up and printing. Like this was 3 builds, 3 sessions, right? Hey, Evil Diesel, how's it going? So Diesel, we were talking about going to Micro Center this weekend. Does Friday work for you? What is Friday? What day is Friday? So Friday's the 30th. Is that close enough? Yeah, I have SolidWorks, but I had SolidWorks through my EAA lifetime membership. And yeah, I just hate the whole interface of how to get into it. So I've stopped using it. I've been using Fusion 360. And I've actually created a couple of things in Fusion 360, like the 120 millimeter fan housing and mount for the auxiliary fan for black box over here. The files that were given to me by KB3D, well, not all 120 millimeter fans have the same hole locations. So they had to be redone. I actually redid those. Yeah, I redid those and was able to get those printed in time for stream. And then I have a one-off here because all of my tool heads are running 60 or 65 watt heaters. I was experiencing brownouts every time there was a fast movement of the tool head because of it. So I went from a single Meanwell LRS 350 power supply to a dual Meanwell UHP 350. So I'm basically running a 700 watt power supply in here. One of the 350s is running the 5-volt buck converter and the main controller board. So because it's running the 5-volt buck converter, it's also running the Raspberry Pi and the Duet 3 6HC, as well as the panel dude, because it's pulling power off that board. The other power supply is running the Duet 3 3HC, which supplies power to 3 of the 60 watt heater cores, and the 12-volt buck converter, which is the water cooling system and the fan for the water cooler. So that splits the amperage draw between those, and it makes life easier. And the dual UHP 350s, more expensive, but it's just a little bit bigger than a Meanwell LRS 350. Now KB3D is going up to they're replacing the 350 with, I think it's a 450 power supply going forward for a base install. I think he says 3 tool heads. If you're going over 3 tool heads, you want the 450. But I think mine will be an option for anybody that's doing high temp tool heads. Once again, a 60 or higher watt and multiple tool heads. It just makes sense to have the extra headroom, right? Okay, yeah, because I can probably let me double check. Yeah, there is. Yeah, apparently there's a Mrs. Dragon appointment still on my calendar that needs to get fixed. Um, yeah, there's nothing on Friday I have to be there for, so I can burn a day on Friday. Um, so we can plan on going on Friday because I've got to go up to. It's what Memorial Day weekend, so I've got to go up to Virginia the back half of the weekend for my mom's birthday. Yeah, I know you prefer Fusion 360 shenanigans. I've been watching you playing Fusion 360 for several days. Um, yeah, so because I just have uh, bare nuts, I didn't use the whatchamacallit, the I was gonna say no nut, but it's not no nut. It's the I don't know, no drop nut um, printed pieces. Um, what I'll do is wait until this print's done, and sometime tonight I'll take the side panel back off. I'll lay it back over, take the side panel off, and attach my Nevermore along this side. I already have the nuts in there for it. It's 4 screws. So I'll go ahead and attach these 4 nuts in here, or these 4 screws. There are ones on the side if you want to put it up against the front corner or the rear corner. I just kind of left it right in the middle. Made more sense to have it in the middle because it's going to help circulate the air through around as well. So as your bed's heating up, your tool head's heating up, it's circulating the air like a convection oven, which will help even out the temp within the chamber. So as it's going down, everything stays nice and toasty. And I've had this well over 50C chamber temp because this rear board here does have a chamber sensor in it. Temp sensor in it. Yeah, I've used Tinkercad to do several things, but like I said, the last couple of things I've needed to design, like the mount for the UHP 350s. That was my first real foray into building a part for myself, and I didn't do it with any help from any tutorials or anything like that. It was just kind of remembering and really thinking my way through it. So yeah, that was fun. It takes a while to really start thinking through it again. Like I took architecture way back in college. I took drafting in high school and was originally going to go into architecture and be an architect, and you know that changed, of course. Um, but sorry. Um, yeah, getting in and reading plans and exploded view drawings and stuff like that. My mind works that way, but then having to sit there and create something from scratch was kind of like I just had to think through it a little bit more. I had to get my brain back into it. Yeah, and then doing things like trig. Like I've been watching a lot of This Old Tony. He's talking about sine and cosine, and I'm like, ow, ow, stop, you know. But with the having the Millennium Machines Milo out in the shed, probably stuff I'm going to have to think about. Like I'm really interested in like maybe going through and um, either cutting my own carbon fiber parts or cutting my own aluminum parts for like upgrading printer gantries and stuff like that. Or I don't know, excuse my reach. I don't know, machining some parts like this, coming up with new machine mounts, and then cutting them out of aluminum versus, of course, model them, test them in plastic, and then look at ways of cutting them out of aluminum where I can probably make them thinner and more rigid and robust. Um, this, by the way, is the Calamity toolhead system for a tube. So this will be getting installed. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to put it on one of the Mercury 1.0Gs, like the one out in the living room, or excuse me, the dining room, or installing it on one of the Vorons, because this belt path, the belt clamps here do support the Voron belt pathings as well. These will support 6 or 9mm belts. So, yeah. I'm just trying to decide which printer I'm going to take apart to do that. Oh yeah, and even more now, this will probably go on the 0G, the bigger one, because it's, I mean, let's put it this way. It's going to be a tube with a 100-watt heater. It can heat up and melt a lot of plastic. So put a 0.8 or a 1 or a 1.2 nozzle in it and then do large prints like helmets in it. You won't get as much detail out of it, but you can do large helmets depending on which ones they are and whether or not they've got a ton of detail in it. But yeah. StableBot, I'm pretty sure that works on a StableBot as well. Yeah. Yeah, I get it, Evil Diesel. Oh yeah. Yeah, I keep looking at, so I've got in the streaming computer right now, I've got 32 gig of RAM. And I am debating whether I want to go and get a 5900 or a 5950X CPU and 64 gig of RAM. I can go all the way up to 128. The board will support 128. I just don't see the need for 128. Fusion 360 is one thing, but I'm not doing like hardcore graphics and video simulation stuff. Um, but I am thinking about doing the upgrade to that. Yeah, Blender will eat it, definitely. That is true. Um, at some point, I'll want to upgrade my laptop, but we'll have to see what happens on September 16th. There's only so much I'm willing to do with a 7% layoff uh, in the wind, and we don't know who's caught up in it until after the 16th. So if I don't get an early morning no notice meeting on the 16th, then I'll be doing good. Oh, they build the key into that now? Oh, yes, they did. Yeah, never seen over 30 with heavy rendering. Yeah, I'm just thinking like multiple things open. So there's been a couple of times like when I was doing the VZBot build, right? I had the CAD open. We were looking at the CAD and streaming and everything off the same PC, and I was seeing a higher than normal load. So I would prefer to have, I mean, it's always better to have more rather than less, right? Okay, so print tolerances somewhere. So this does have the key on it, but I'll say my print tolerances are a bit off because it not going in there. And that's why they make files, right? Um, but yeah, that's been my thought process. I don't know if I will get it. I could definitely use a SSD, an M key SSD to go with my Ty Moroni M2 sled for the um, Raspberry Pi 5. So I'll have a Raspberry Pi 5 that will not be in a printer, but will be running SSD memory versus uh, a SD card. Um, yeah. So what do I have in this one? Still have the. Did I get rid of stuff already? There we go. Yeah, and I know it's on my Twitch page. So if you go into the About Me section down below, you can see the specs for my PC. If you go to the Throne link that I haven't put out there yet, it will have a lot of these upgrades that I'm talking about right now. But this is a AMD Ryzen 7 3700X, which I believe is what, was it 4 cores with blah, 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 blah. I want to say it's 4 cores with 8 threads. If memory is serving me right. And going up to, oh wait, there it is. Oh, it's 8 core. So it's an 8 core, 16 total threads. And going to the 5900 or the 5950 will get me, well, the 5900 I think is 12 cores. The 5950 is 16 cores. Hey, Maker Viking, how's it going? And like I said, I currently have 32 gig of RAM. I want to go up to at least 64. And then my graphics is a NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3060. All right, so this is barely fitting in. Yeah, so there we go. I don't know if I want to be just relying on the printed part though, or if I want to figure out what the printed part that just stripped. Yeah. Well, that sucks balls. Or that sucks. Yeah, it's probably a 5mm. Yeah, stripping it even more is not going to help Luke, so. There we go. Whew. Leave that open for now. And it's pretty much going to go back to just being an ABS machine anyhow, so. I'll sell you my 3080 when the new 5000s come out. Really? How about we call it a trade for the 7 printers that are at your house? We're going to bid on your projects as usual. I saw your evil pumpkin. I need to download it and get it printing on something. Then you can't afford a 5080? Priorities, man, priorities. Do you need a 5080 or do you need a new resin printer? Better get them priorities straight. Okay, so yeah, I may actually find the, where is that blue? That's still loaded up somewhere? Different blue. Ah, no, that's the Fadus. 3DO, where's 3DO blue? No. 3DO blue must be over here. Come on, 3DO. Ooh. Oh, it's the Polymaker purple. Where the 3DO is going to be? Anyhow, I'll try and find the right blue and print that part out. That was the Fadus, right? Fadus. You ever get the feeling that I have filament just kind of everywhere? Because I do. I don't know. I'll look for it, I'll find it, and I'll print the new one of these. And if I can't find it, then I will, if I can't find one of the two colors that I used for this, I will have to order some more or get some at Earth. You need the S3, get to sleep, been up since 3 a.m. Dude, all right, get some sleep, Evil Diesel. We'll talk more tomorrow. So, Maker Viking, what projects have you been working on? Have you been working on Fenrir? Oh, hey, Stephen Poole, welcome in. Still waiting to, still waiting for the updates on Fenrir. Let me see. Nope. Polymaker. Polymaker. Fadus. Nothing. Oh, oh, oh. Up, 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 up. Nope, that's PC. What did I do with that darn thing? I know I should have had extra. I should not have used all of that filament for a V0. No, I'll keep looking. I'll find it. So once again, for those of you that are just coming in, we've got this finished. It's going to make its way back on, I say onto the line. It's going to make its way down to one of the dining room tables and continue to print things as needed. And Thursday, we will be back at it, but we will be building a new project. And I know, it's not the droid build. It's not the droid you all are looking for. But I have a feeling that people are going to be interested in this. This is a box turtle. Think of it as an open source AMS from Armored Turtle. It's not fully completed yet. There'll be some, grab this, some lane LEDs. As I drop the part, there will be some lane LEDs that will sit on there that will, of course, light up and give us an idea of what's going on with the lane, right? So I need to still wire those up and install those. When I'm doing a beta build like this and I'm just trying to get it up and functional, I don't care about LEDs. Like, I will at the end, but for now, I'm not worried about these LEDs. But I'm worried about, does the machine function, right? So what we've got is in each tool or each e-spooler, this is the front, by the way, each of these e-spoolers has a tiny N20 motor in it. Very small, geared motor, very, very tiny little thing, right? And that's what's going to do the rewind portion. The wind forward, the wind back, just like an AMS. Okay? On the bottom side, we've got 4 extruders that we've got at the motors up here. We have trigger sensors. So there's end stops up here with trigger sensors that will tell us that, hey, filament's been loaded, start running the motor to load filament in. We'll know when it made it to the extruder because there's a sensor in here as well. And that way we can push it through when it needs to and come back to the extruder when it's parked. Okay, and then there's a filament sensor in the 4-to-1 hub here. So that tells us that filament has successfully loaded and is on its way to the printer and when it's been retracted. With having so many sensors in here, it's really going to be easy to tell where you may have a jam, a clog, or a break. Okay? So on this side, we're currently using a Big Tree Tech MMU board. And the 4N20 motors up here are over here on a DC motor driver board called a MOSFETI. There's multiple different ones that you can do. You can do individual boards. This is just a 4-way board. Your 4 NEMA 14 motors come over here to the MMU. And then you have all of your end stop sensors going into the MMU board. And your RGB lights on your lanes will go in there as well. There's also a design, these are printed corners. There's a design for extrusion corners, but on the printed corners, you can put RGB lights down in here as well with diffusers so that you can really make it light up. And there is a bottom panel designed for this. I probably will not cut or print one of those out so that I can pick this up and kind of show it, because this will be going to 3D Printopia. And the other one that we're going to build on stream is already printed. The colors are Galaxy Orange and Galaxy Red, along with some black for the TPU wheels on the E-spoolers and the lane trays for the printed part, or for the spools. So we will be working on that starting Thursday. And after putting the first one together in a weird way, because there's no manual, that's part of what we're doing in the closed beta, is building the order of operations and the manual, and testing and making sure that everything works. They do have a custom board. Armored Turtle just got in a batch of the custom boards. I've got a couple on order, so hopefully I can get those in and try one of those out in one of these builds. And what? Yeah, so we're validating parts. We're validating fitment. There's been several changes that have already happened in the parts. We're validating. We need to validate the build order. Like the way I built mine was the way I had parts come in from AliExpress. That was definitely the more painful way. It's definitely going to be a lot easier to build, I'll say, like the E-spooler part of the lanes, get those installed, then start building the frame because of the way that everything gets built together. And we'll see that as we go through, and then you can build your extruders and add your extruders afterwards, which will help when you're doing all your wiring. So, yeah. But the V0 is printing well. That's all I had really for today, was to, one, do a little hype for the box turtle, and get everybody hyped up for starting that build Thursday. And, show off that, yes, we are printing. There's a few little things we need to tune on this, but once again, not rebuilding the tool head, not having to redo all the wiring, because in fact, we actually pulled the wiring out, There's the X end stop. There's the Y end stop. This is the X end stop between the breakout board and the SKR board. This was the original power plug for the Raspberry Pi. I had to actually make a longer one. And in fact, I actually added some Wagos down there. So when I go to install the 5-volt fan, I can do just direct power always on via Wago versus trying to plug it into the Raspberry Pi. Because what I found is when you're powering your Raspberry Pi, depending on what all you're running off of it, USB wise, this is USB powered right off the Raspberry Pi. The Annex Engineering K3, so the K3 over here, the Raspberry Pi is mounted directly to the back side of this screen. And it powers this screen. Because of it, even though I'm providing 5-volt power in through the Raspberry Pi's USB connector, I still had to pull additional 5-volt off the SKR board into the GPIOs because I was getting undervoltage errors. So I've always found on the Raspberry Pis on a 3B and up, depending on what you are connecting to that printer, you may need to provide additional power, which means you're not able to feed 5-volt off of the board if you're running it through the GPIO. And it may be one of those things where I cut up a USB cable, power it from the USB, and that will free up a 5-volt on the board or on the GPIOs that I can then run that cooling fan off the GPIO and get some PWM capabilities. Next one half does the other. It doesn't matter. In this configuration, I almost kind of want it always running and always on, because right now where are we at? Oh, the dashboard. The Raspberry Pi is running at 58 degrees Celsius because this rear panel is fully enclosed right now. So there's just no airflow over that Raspberry Pi or the MCU because I don't have any fan back there yet. So I do need to get that fan installed and running. And the way it's set up is it will pull air in from the bottom, shoot it up the one side over the Raspberry Pi, which should force it to come around and down the other side. Basically just do one of these loops in the background. So, but yeah, we're up and running. I did lock down all of the screws on the motors after we got the belts tensioned. So those aren't going to slip over time. But yeah, and that's kind of where we're at, folks. We've done some work done on Fenrir, but also more on the upgrades for the SP5. You need to finish up the SP5 upgrades. You're getting the Octopus Pro board for it probably this week when it is done. You have 2 printers to print Fenrir parts on. Other than that, it's been sculpting the Evil Pumpkin, and the next model I'll post on things this Friday. Awesome. Yeah, I need to see what orange colors I have, and then possibly print one of the Evil Pumpkins. I want to say I do have a pumpkin print already, but more is always better, right? Add more of them out in the front porch. So cool. Like I said, if you want anybody to look at Fenrir and do any test prints on Fenrir, just let me know. Hit me up via Discord. Um, but for now, folks, uh, I'm kind of done. Uh, I'm like I said, with the family stuff going on right now, my sleep schedule's all jacked up. So I'm gonna actually try and get to bed before 2 a.m. sometime this week. Yeah, more is better. Uh, oh, is Fenrir on things? Okay. Or what? No. Gotcha. The pumpkin's on things, and you'll hit me up about Fenrir. Gotcha. I see. I've told you, brain's not firing on cells just yet. Well, let me check out and see who we've got for a potential raid tonight. I know we should probably have a Creatix Brit on at some point. We should have a Big Jano on at some point. Lots of people playing games. Several people just running their printers. Hey, Bros. Gang. He's doing a RX-7 car build. I'm sure that's probably a Lego build. Him for the days up and running. Oh, not a problem, Mr. Rizix. Thank you all for being here. I really do appreciate you all being here and spending your evenings with me throughout the week and your Saturday mornings with me on the weekends. Like I said, I'm going to be tinkering and doing this stuff anyhow. I obviously do some stuff even off stream, but having the time to share it with you all and just bring so many of these cool builds to you guys that you may not see other ways. I mean, I know not everybody's going to be able to afford a black box and a full up build like this, compared to doing, the complexity of doing a build like this compared to like, going and getting a commercial IDEX or a Prusa XL, right? It's just so much easier when it's mostly pre-assembled and you're just doing a couple of other things rather than doing a full, hey, here's 80 pounds, of material in 6 boxes, go forth, But seeing these things built, it kind of breaks down the barriers some, and you go, oh, it's just a bunch of individual steps. It's probably not that hard. And then you go and you do a build like a Rook or a Rook 2020 or a Bugaboo, something smaller, that's not as complicated, and you get used to it, and you're like, okay, that's not that much, that's not that difficult. So then you start building up like, this is definitely not a beginning printer, right? Either with the tool changer or the duet and all the different wiring that you have to do here, definitely not a beginning printer. Kind of like the second, the SK Go and stuff like that. Second's like, these aren't your first builds. Like you got to build something first and get the basics down and then come and do something like this. So just being able to build these and learn and share my knowledge and my experiences with you guys is what I love about this. I mean, I always wanted to do some type of teaching, and doing it like this has been wonderful. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to everybody that followed the channel this evening. Let me see. Esmipo, Liberdade, J Sims Printing. Thank you all for the follows this evening, and just joining the community and being able to get the notifications when we do some other cool things like the box turtle or the droid build, or any of the little RC things or other maker 3D printing adjacent projects that we're going to do here on stream this year and next year and in the future. Thank you all for being here. I've droned on enough. I'm going to go ahead. We haven't gone and seen Kim for the day in a while. So I'm going to go ahead and get a raid started over for Kim for the day. She is another maker here in the community. You know, I'm not going to necessarily say 18 or over, but she does have some 18 or over streams, right? But please go with me as we head over to Kim for the day. Thank you once again for spending your time with me this evening. And we've gotten through another awesome build. So thank you very much. It's going to be great to have this one back on the line and printing again. Everybody have a great night. Stay safe. I'll see you Thursday for the box turtle. Bye now.